Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Weekend Grill number 8. We are here, locked and loaded, ready to go. Paul Sebastiani, Adrian Daher. Hello, sir. How are you, mate?
Good. How are you?
Very well, very well. Now, before we get into proceedings, we need to give a big shout out to our listeners and our audience. 100 subscribers on YouTube.
Yeah, that's
So,
great.
to
Good
all
stuff,
you,
guys. Appreciate that.
Bravo, very well done. We're
Grab
up
a
to 100
beverage of your
subscribers,
choice,
so
a tea, a beer, a water, whatever you're
do
doing
what you
tonight.
like. Do what you like.
Tune in. We appreciate it. Hey, also as well,
Yes, sir.
just quickly, fella came up to me on the footy on Friday night,
yes.
John, mad Carlton supporter, met
Yes.
him and his son, and he's a massive
nice.
admirer of your work.
Thank you.
And,
So
a
we
big,
should
big
so
viewer,
we should be.
a big viewer of the show.
So
and
we should be.
it was good to hear. So
Nice.
There you go, Paul.
Nice. Good.
John, big shout out, John. Thanks for
Hello to
coming up.
John. We've actually had a heap of comments as well on our latest YouTube episode too, so keep that up as well.
We love it.
Ladies
We
and
love
gentlemen.
it.
We've got the audience questions, which we're going to get onto later in the program. But to set the agenda, AD,
Yep.
I just laugh. Carlton's always top of the chain. Always top of the chain. Adam Chera, Brian Cook's comments. The Carlton fiasco, we're
Yep.
dubbing it. Is it a fiasco? Make of it what you will. The AFL, they've acted on booing. They've released a statement. Collingwood released a statement as well. So have Sydney over their game during the weekend. Who's Cooking is back for another week. Our top 5 teams and players. Might be a little bit of moving and shaking in that one as well. Again, viewer questions and then the round 9 preview, sir. Let's get stuck straight into it. Carlton, again. Another poor performance in another big test in season 2023. Just couldn't handle the heat against Brisbane. Brisbane were very good, but Carlton poor again.
They were very, very average. And then, this is this particular topic, the fiasco or what's going on at Carlton might be a bit of a big talking point. But going back to Friday, that was horrible. That's the third test of the year that I can remember, and that's the third failure. And to top it off, the CEO and one of their star players, Adam Chera, go to a press conference or have an interview, and let's take it for how it is.
Call a spade, are we?
Look, they said some words. They were asked a question that I do believe no matter how they answered it, they would have got scrutinised for it,
Correct.
which is true. So, I mean, we
Correct.
have to put that into factor. And, look, it's rubbed a lot of people the wrong way.
Yes.
And some will say rightfully so. Some will say, yeah, look, maybe it's taken out of context. You need to watch the whole video.
Yep.
The whole interview. I've done both. I am very certain that you have done both of that.
Yes, I have.
Watched both and listened to them both. So, yeah, what's your thoughts? What are you thinking?
Initially, my gut wrenched, and I thought, oh, God, okay, here we go again. The same crap with Carlton year in, year out. Initially, my emotions kind of overrided me, and I thought, oh, God, this club, they just stand for nothing. This is absolute crap. Why are they saying this? Brian Cook would have never said that at Geelong. Adam Chera, isn't that our goal? Shouldn't that be? Isn't it just cut and dry? If you don't make it, it's a failure. If you do make it, it's a tick, right? But then I actually went back and made sure I listened to everything word for word, right? And I don't think now is the time to sink the boots in just yet. Sink the boots in for the performance.
You're talking from a Carlton supporter's perspective.
Yes, from a Carlton supporter's perspective, right? The media's they're going to say what they have to say. It's Carlton. It's a big club, premierships, finals, all on the agenda. And if they don't make it, they're going to cop it regardless, right? But I've kind of looked back at it and thought, okay, well, Adam Chera and Brian Cook have said what they've said. Okay, that all I needed to hear was Adam Chera say finals is the goal. He said those words. Everybody knows at the club that is the bare minimum expectation on this year as a supporter base and as a fan base. Great. Lambast the performance. Slam them. They were terrible. They were shocking on Friday. It was poor from the second half onwards, right? The problem is that what are you going to do now that they've said that? Are you going to not back them? Are you going to not rock up? Are you going to not give them your energy? Are you going to not try to will them all the way? We're only 8 rounds in, right? And people will go, you've got to be hard on them. You've got to be hard on them. Yeah, you can be hard on them, but still put an arm around them and say, no, come on, boys. We believe in you. I think from their point of view now is that Carlton has always been seen as a ruthless club, right? My problem is that the fan base has done this time and time again. Outrage, outrage.
With no avail.
Outrage. Sack the coach. Sack the CEO. Get rid of the players. Get rid of the list manager. 3 CEOs, 3 coaches. What's changed? Nothing. Fan base have been outraged for 20 years. What's changed? Nothing. The club has improved on field.
Sure.
That's not even a question because it's just basic maths. 12-10 last year and 4-3-1 this year is only after 8 rounds. And I've always been of the opinion I'm going to judge it at the back end of the season because everybody fired at the hip after 10 rounds last season. Look what happened.
12 months
ago. It fell
ago.
arse over end, right? Now everybody's firing off at the hip now, and cooler heads always prevail in these situations.
Sure.
Let the season play out, and then you assess from there. And even if they don't make the finals and people think it is a failure, or if they don't, what are you going to do? What are you going to do?
Well, as Brian Cook said, it's not the end of the world.
What are you going to do? I mean,
not wrong.
Right? Everybody, and this is the thing that peeves me. Everybody is enraged by the comments, right? Oh, it's a failure if they don't make finals. He shouldn't say that. We need a ruthless edge, blah, 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 blah. Okay, great. What's your solution if they don't make it? You got a solution? Sack him, sack it. Yeah, it hasn't worked. No. Everyone's enraged by the comments, but no one has a solution. Everyone just says, be ruthless, win a premiership. Well, that's easy to say. How are you going to get there?
Well, that's
the big question.
That's why they're sitting where they are and the people in charge are sitting where
exactly.
they are. So,
exactly. Yeah. I'm not saying back them in blindly if you're a Carlton fan. Sure. I'm not saying that. I'm like, but this is not the time to absolutely lambast every single facet of the club, right? Let them go through the season first. Things can change in an instant. Collingwood lost to West Coast and the Western Bulldogs last season and were 4-3 or whatever they were and then went on a crazy run. I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but just let it play out first. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow or the day after or the day after that. Let it play out. Everyone's gone berserk after 8 rounds of football. Calm down. Let it play out first. That's my opinion on it. I don't know what you think, but all yours.
Very, very similar. First of all, I think what you said was fantastic.
Yeah.
I think you probably summed it up better than most.
Yeah.
But my first initial reaction, firstly after the game, was that was horrible.
Well, but it was, and not to cut you off, but when your emotions get the better of you, you can't make rational judgments.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
So do you think that Carlton supporters are theoretically in the best position to make a judgment when they've emotionally attached to the club, and do you think that compromises a lot of the judgment?
To a certain point, yes.
Sure.
But to a certain point, you do need that because without that, your club's nothing.
But this is also the thing. This is the reason why I think people external to the club or people who don't support the club are in a much better position to assess what's going on compared to Carlton fans.
Yep.
If that makes sense.
Yep. And people are saying it's not good enough, which it's not.
It wasn't good enough, mate. And look,
simple.
I just think like my sort of take on it is I as a Carlton fan, both of us and a lot of them, I look at what's happening with the fans and the club, and to me, it's akin to a relationship between a father and a son.
Yes.
And the reason why, I'll explain.
Okay, expand. I like this.
Okay. When you're growing up, there's a lot of highs, there's a lot of swing highs, a lot of swing lows. There's a lot of waves. You have a lot of bad moments in your life. You have a lot of good times in your life. And your parents are the ones that ride all those waves of success.
Yep.
All the down times. They'll always back you in. They'll always be there for you. Their support is unwavered, and they'll always give you the benefit of the doubt. Even though they know that you've done something wrong or they're not happy with you, they'll always be there.
Good parents will do that.
Majority, yeah, correct. And I just see. I look at Carlton fans and how my perception of it is that's what Carlton is to me.
Yeah.
Every year I'm going to turn up. I'm going to be upset. I'm going to be angry. I'm going to be happy when we're doing well. I'm going to be mad when we're not doing well. But the support is never, ever wavered.
Yeah, yeah.
It never changes. You back your club in just like a parents back their kids in every single time. And I just think it hit me Monday night, Tuesday morning, and I thought after I heard the chair of press conference, and I was one of those guys that overreacted. I wouldn't say it's an overreaction. I think it was justified.
Yeah.
Because if we take it for what it is, the facts of the matter are, the club has been irrelevant for the best part of
absolutely
two and a half 20
on the field,
20 years
on the field, yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So their performances haven't really stacked up. Okay, they've gone thrown Hail Marys, they've gone and got this player, they've gone and got that player. They've become an attraction site for mercenaries. If you want money, you want to earn a paycheck, come to Carlton. The doors at Icon Park are open. Right. My question is, or the first thing I thought when I heard Brian Cook speak or heard those comments was, is the current administration wearing or bearing the consequence of previous failures?
Yes.
And the reason why I say that is one of his, don't quote me word for word, but something along the lines of, Brian Cook said something along the lines of, we're a bit top heavy.
Yes, correct. Now, with regards to list management.
Right? And then you go back through our draft and you see what we've given away, what we've brought in via the draft. And you've been big on this, not on air, but personally in personal conversations where you suggest that Carlton might be a bit more inclined just to head towards the draft.
100%.
And Brian Cook sort of reiterated that, if you want to put it in that way. I just think that they need to make smart decisions, and I think Brian Cook has gone there, and I think he's realised that, look, this club might not be where everyone thinks. Right? Now, it's not to say, he can't come out and say, look, when I first walked into the club, I expected it to be like this.
Yep.
But in reality or in actuality, it's like that. He's never going to say that. And as we said, either of those press conferences with Brian Cook and Adam Chera, no matter what answer they gave, they were going to get bombarded. Like, they're going to cop it.
Exactly right.
But, yeah, look, just to go back to it, us as fans, we've been, or Carlton fans in particular, have been starved of any form of success. I just, my mentality towards it all has more shifted to, I feel like these are our kids. This is our offspring. I want to, we're not going to be happy when they do things wrong. I can tell you now, like, just from a personal perspective, there's been times that, we've all done things in our lives that have not impressed people.
Of course.
And then there's things that we've done in our lives where, people close to us can hold their heads high. And to me, that's how I look at the club. The love, the love for the club that their fans have. And Carlton administration would know this.
Correct.
They're one of the most loyal, one of the most passionate and loudest fan bases in the whole country. How do you get 88,000 members and you've done fuck all for 25 years? The club has been irrelevant for 2.5 decades. Like, I just think, as you said, their next, judge them at the end of the year, but at the same time as well, let's sit on this side of the fence and the emotional side of the fence and say, well, look, everything that they have copped and all their fans and the reaction, it's all justified. Sometimes, it can go over the top. I've never been one of those ones where, sack the coach. I do think, though, some of the players need to pull their fingers out. And the reason why I say that, and, I'm not here to finger point or blame, but if I was going to sort of put something to it, it would be the players. I mean, the majority of these players now have had 3 different coaches. There seems to be a common,
a common denominator.
Correct.
Isn't there?
And I just think, as fans, I do agree with what you said. I think you summed it up better than anyone could. Is just to assess what happens after the year. Everyone's worried about the now. I am one of them too.
Yes.
I'm not going to shy away from that. Let's not tell lies here. Like, I'm very vocal. You're very vocal. A lot of the Carlton fan base is, but
so we should be.
The reality is, let's just see where they are after, let's say,
round 20,
round even less. Their next 4 weeks are huge,
enormous.
Everyone knows who they have coming up, and some will say it's season. It's a defining moment.
Could be.
It could be. It may not be.
Well be.
But look, as you said, let's just take a chill pill. I can understand those that are animated and that are upset with what's going on.
I'm one of them, though. I'm one of them too.
We all are. We're a passionate bunch. But as I'm looking at it now, and I'm going, like, if I look at Carlton and I see them as my son. And I want to wrap my arm. I know you're gonna do things I'm not happy with. I know there's gonna be things or outcomes and decisions that you make that I'm not gonna I'm not going to, agree with.
Nothing wrong with a bit of tough love.
Yeah, and but at the same time, I will always, as most parents, as you said, will be there for their kids.
Exactly.
And I just think a lot of Carlton supporters, and they will always be there.
Yeah.
A lot of them are very passionate.
To finish up on it, I think the whole club, and when I say whole club, it needs to be not just one thing, as you said. You can't just pinpoint one thing. It's got to be everybody, players, coaches, fans, sponsors, board, all that has to be encompassed in it, and all that has to get better as any football club. That ecosystem of a club has to get better if you want to get to the top. So again, I think as a fan base and as a membership base, they've got the first half right. Carlton's got the first half right. Slam them for poor performance, praise them for good performances. But as a fan base, and I know they're not, and I know it's hard to be in the position to actually make decisions, but try to come up with ways where your intentions are to get the club to where they want to be. Not go the first half and slam the crap out of them and then not come up with a solution. I know people say, we're not in the position to. Yeah, but 90,000 members have got a big influence on that. So all the intentions have to be around making the club better. But look, you can go over it and belt it for as long as you like, but,
Well, I mean, just another thing to put, just to finish off as well. It's times like these where, there's a saying, when there's blood on the street, this is where there's an opportunity.
Correct.
And we spoke this to me when I, even myself, when I see, whether it's investing, whether it's in general, like just anything in life, when there is blood on the streets, that's when I pounce. I see opportunity. This is an opportunity for Carlton. To make a stand. And it's amazing because the club that you and I were discussing after round 2 in Western Bulldogs, they reshuffled their deck. Yeah. They gave themselves a new hand. There's no reason to suggest that Carlton can't do the same. I just think, look, even after this week, as you said, if they lose or if they win, and then what?
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, exactly.
And then, you know what?
Yeah, exactly.
As an example, if they beat Collingwood, and then what? Like, let's just, I'm, as I said, I'm one of them included. I probably just need to calm down, sit back, and as you, this won't come as a surprise to you, but as you and I speak about, at the end of the day, they're all entertainers. Correct. We need to realise I don't want to get into it.
They lose and they're smiling. We'll leave it at that.
They're entertainers. if for those who know me will know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, we'll leave it at that. Okay, I think that's Carlton done and dusted. So they've got a big game this weekend, which we'll get into in the round 9 preview.
Correct.
Okay, that's Carlton done and dusted. Let us know what you think, if you agree, disagree.
That was epic. I felt emotional.
Well, it is. I
couldn't even speak properly. That's how much I love this club.
Footy's an emotional topic for a lot. Okay, speaking of emotions, they may or may have not boiled over at the MCG over the weekend between Collingwood and Sydney. Now, the question we've posed with regards to this so Collingwood and Sydney both released a statement with regards to booing that occurred over the weekend. Now, it's the first of its kind. Now, the question we want to ask is, why has the booing been acted upon now? Why has it taken 100 years for the AFL to enact on booing? Or a club to enact on booing?
I need to be we need to be very careful what
Two words, thin ice.
What we say here.
Very thin ice.
First and foremost, booing is a part of the sport, whether anyone likes it or not. It's just the way it is. Secondly, as you said, the question as to why they've raised it now after that particular game. Jason Horne-Francis has been getting booed for basically the majority of his life.
Yep.
Well, not his life, his AFL life in 2023 in particular.
Yep.
No one said nothing. May I remind the Sydney Swans faithful, the controversial faithful that they are, the Qatar Airways sponsorship faithful, the virtue signalling faithful that they are.
Oh, absolutely.
Last year, Jack Ginnivan was sitting on the bench.
Copping it.
And these blokes were booing him, and he took it and smiled. And do you know what the worst part is? He was injured.
Correct.
Imagine booing an injured 18-year-old. Like, you make me sick.
As we said.
And then here they are, and they released a statement, and they can't cop it. Now, that game, the game this year in particular had a lot of feeling, right? Nothing was was wrong. Like, a bit of niggle here and there.
What are we doing?
And they're booing Franklin. Now, as I said, Jason Horne-Francis and other players in the AFL, in particular Horne-Francis, was getting booed by opposition teams for no reason.
Yep.
So, in actuality, we've got one player getting booed for no reason, and as the AFL and Collingwood and Sydney have released or have stated, why is Buddy Franklin getting booed for no reason? The questions we have is, why did you not say anything after Jason Horne-Francis, but you want to come out and release a statement about Buddy Franklin? Now, the reasons given in those statements were along the lines of we don't want to be seen as booing champions. Okay, great.
Right.
Is that the real reason why you release a statement?
No.
Are you insinuating something else? Can
Correct.
we not mention it?
Of course
are
they
you
are
insinuating something else?
Of course they are.
Well, Sydney along the lines, something not word for word, but basically said, we've been here before. We thought or we hoped that we would have learned.
Yep.
What are you insinuating?
What are you insinuating?
That's disrespectful to Collingwood supporters.
I agree. Paint them all with the same brush, do you?
You know what they're getting at.
Correct.
And we don't need to mention it.
Well, Collingwood have gone on the front foot because of...
We know the recent activities that Collingwood have done with... We know... And great and good on them. We're not saying what they've done in the last couple of weeks with their ceremonies and Victoria Park, etc., was wrong. We love it. But you basically... To me, I find if I was a Collingwood fan and I knew it wasn't motivated by something in particular, I'd be filthy that they've released it, because what they're insinuating is it was motivated by this and that.
The statement was worded brilliantly, though, by their PR, because they pulled on the heartstrings of the fans by saying, you're our 19th player.
Man. And, all this inclusive language is bullshit.
Yeah.
The Collingwood faithful are allowed. As far as I'm concerned, they're entitled to boo who they want within reason, or any club within reason. And
you can boo whoever you want at the ground.
This is the part that I find amazing. The timing from the AFL, it's all too convenient. Why? I'll explain why. Friday night, Tom Stewart comes up against Richmond. We know what Tom Stewart did.
Yeah, he cleaned up press.
The timing's all too convenient. Yeah. Liam Jones comes up against Carlton. Yeah. Right. Jason Horne-Francis comes up against North Melbourne, although it's in Tasmania, so I don't know how many people are going to be booing there. Right? None of them go for North Melbourne. They'll go for Tasmania.
Now they do, apparently.
I just find it, as I said, it's just a bit too convenient for me that they've released it now.
The timing's brilliant, isn't it?
Do they realistically expect there to not be booing this week?
No.
The big test for me is the Richmond fans.
Oh, yeah, huge. It's the first game.
And Richmond fans are,
vocal.
They're everything you think they are.
And Richmond and Geelong, they don't really like each other and see eye to eye either.
It's going to be interesting. As the point I'm trying to make is, or the point I want to be taken out of it is, the reasons or the justifications as to why the AFL has come out now.
Yep.
When if they really, really cared about booing, they could have mentioned it when Jason Horne-Francis was getting booed for no apparent reason, and they didn't want to say nothing. And we could even go back 8 months ago or however long ago it was, that game at the SCG where the Sydney Swans supporters were booing an 18-year-old kid who was injured.
Collingwood supporters.
How low can you get?
To
me, that's even lower.
Yeah, exactly. Collingwood supporters booing Patrick Cripps after he got off from that suspension.
I mean, look, I'm not going to say anything.
If it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander.
I mean, it is what it is. As far as I'm concerned, players should be professional as long as it's within limits.
This is my problem with it, right?
Mm.
Who are you as a club and as an AFL organisation? Who in God's name are you to tell people what they can and can't say? You honestly think you have that type of power over people? Is that how good you think you are, that you can control what people say and do?
I have a simple answer for that.
To me, that's just ridiculous.
It's not if you want to be perceived to be something you're not.
Yeah, it's my issue is this again. Who are you to say what people can and can't say, right? At a ground, there is a line that we've drawn as a society, and we've understood that.
There is a line in terms of racism.
Yeah,
in terms of
fair enough.
Choice words.
Okay, yeah. Okay, great, brilliant. But my problem is that the people who make these statements and control these things and tell you what you can and can't do are the people you would least want in these positions. The people in these positions telling you what you can and can't do, they're the people you least want in these positions. I'll leave it at that. Your job is to continue to grow the game, all that. And look, how fickle can you be as a player if you're affected by booing, mate? Don't go out there. Simple as that, mate. Look at European football. I know it's a different culture. Mate, you heard some of the stuff they say in the grandstands in Europe, the Balkan regions and stuff. The players just get on with it, mate. Use it as motivation. That's what you do. Boo.
I've been, mate. I've heard a lot.
Like, I mean, it just to me, it's a moot point. It's just a moot point, mate, and it's going to continue. The more they mention it, the more it won't stop. It won't stop this weekend.
It's not going to stop.
It won't stop this weekend.
This is why I was referencing the conveniency of or the timing of it all, because there's a lot this week that there's a massive build-up, or there's a lot of reasons why people can boo.
Yep.
And I just found it ironic how it's taken them this long.
I'll leave it at this, and I'll ask this as an audience question.
Mm-hmm. Let's get your feedback on this.
What if it gets to a point?
We love this. I love this topic.
If it's getting to this point now where statements are being made, clubs are coming out, AFL's coming out, right? My fear is that as you push that boundary back, it's going to go back further. What's the next step?
Oh, eviction.
For booing?
Yeah.
Really?
That's the way. Is that what you think?
Yes.
Ah, okay.
Evicted for booing. Really? Is that where we're going to get to?
I don't think
is that where they're going to get to?
No, I don't think
that's
it will.
the next progression.
I know.
This is where I'm telling you, this is where these psychopaths, I'm telling you, they're psychopaths. They're nutters. These people are crazy. They'll go, okay, don't boo. Oh, how do we stop people from booing? Oh, kick them out. So you're going to kick out every single. What about people who are loud when a team's coming with momentum?
Well, they're
getting back into the game. Security guards at the ground are being like, oh, you're being too loud. You're booing. What are we going to get to?
I don't think.
Where are we going to get to?
I certainly hope it doesn't.
They are playing with. They're playing with fire here. They are playing with fire. Be very, very careful how you tread with this kind of stuff, because the next progression.
Last thing I want to do is to turn the fans away. Wow. Yes, let's try and educate them, and common sense should prevail. Good sportsmanship. Yep. I'm not saying the booing of Buddy. I'm not saying I agree with it. I can't work it out. Unless he was the one who was roughing up Nick Dacos, I thought it was Papley. But look,
Aaron Francis had a set shot and they booed him. Tom Papley had a set shot.
That's completely fine.
Like,
that's completely fine. That is, in my opinion,
so it's double standards then.
Yeah, of course, mate. Everything in life is.
So it's double standards.
Everything political and bureaucratic. It's all double standards.
I don't know, what are we doing here?
I can't believe we got to this point. All right, we've got to move on.
Skin, for God's sake. Okay. Who's cooking? Top 5 teams, players. Have you done any moving and shaking with your teams?
I have. So my top 5 teams are Geelong. They're still number 1.
Yes, sir.
Premiership favourites in my eyes.
Yep.
They've won the flag until they haven't. Collingwood stay at number 2. So the top 2 haven't moved. The adjustments I have made was Brisbane elevate themselves to number 3.
Okay, like it.
So the Lions did. The Lions did answer a big question on Friday night.
They did.
And their position in number 3 is justified. Melbourne slipped down to number 4.
Okay.
Not a big knock on them.
Yep.
I'm a big fan of the D's, as you know, and the way that they move the ball and how quickly they can actually score. But just a few things I'm not sold on.
Okay,
As I said, it's just a mentality thing.
Yep.
And in 5th position, elevated, is Port Adelaide. They've managed to circumnavigate the hardest part of their draw, as far as I can remember.
Yep.
They've done very well, given the little niggles that they've got and who they've come up against. They've managed to get through, the first 8 rounds well.
Yep.
They are number 5. The gap between 4th and 5th in my top 5, in my eyes, is big.
Yep.
So look, Port Adelaide's got a bit more work to get their way up there, but that 5th spot, I can see changing multiple times.
Like it.
Yourself?
Like it.
Who you got?
Nothing's changed for me with regards to teams. Melbourne, Collingwood, Port Adelaide, Brisbane and Geelong. That's my top 5. So it might change this week or next week, but I haven't really... Yeah, nothing's really changed for me there.
All right.
Could have elevated Brisbane, but yeah, I like what Port did on the weekend. They were challenged, and I thought their performance as a whole was brilliant.
Do you think the 5 points was underwhelming? Do you think it was a bit flattering? Like, what
no, absolutely. Yeah, 100%. It really flattered Essendon. Port Adelaide really I thought they
What
dominated
I ask
the
is,
game.
do you think they were better than that margin?
Yes, 100%. Yeah, probably a 3 to 4 goal win. I would have thought if they had have kicked straight. But bad kicking's bad football. But still, I like what they're doing at the moment. So players,
same here.
Much change for you? With the
Nah,
players?
number one again consolidated his spot as my number one and a lot of people's number ones.
Yep.
Marcus Bontempelli, 32 touches, 14 clearances, 7 inside 50s, 7 tackles. Blah blah blah. I don't need to say any more.
You don't.
He is outright and by far the most influential player in AFL at this stage.
Yep.
Clayton Oliver elevates to number 2, which means Jeremy Cameron goes to number 3. No knock, Jez. I still think, he's, as I said, this is based on players that are influencing games.
Yep.
And he is the third, in my opinion, third best player in the comp at this stage. Charlie Curnow remains at number 4.
Love it.
And number 5 is Nick Dacos. So not much of a change. And that's because over the weekend there wasn't a lot of shocks. Players that you expect to perform to a level were performing. The only one I thought, I don't think you can get higher than number 1, but Marcus Bontempelli, again, he just reiterated to the whole country that he is the best player in the comp.
Yes.
And there's no one in this world that can change my mind unless you can. Tell me.
I can't change your mind because I agree with you. I've done a swap. I've put Marcus Bontempelli at number 1.
Yep.
Charlie Curnow's gone down to number 2.
Yep.
Jeremy Cameron 3, Nick Dacos 4, and Toby Green in 5th position. So there's just a little bit of a change up the top. The Bont has elevated to the number 1 seed.
Your good friend who does a lot of good work.
Yes.
Pommy.
Yes.
Pommy
the great
and Oz.
man.
Shout out, Dan. Pommy and Oz. You should. If you ever get a chance to watch this guy's stuff, I suggest you do.
Genius.
He's very good. He's part of the Blue Broad. Shout out Blue Broad too. Good fellas.
Yep.
He was telling me he was very, very bullish on the Bont and how many Brownlow votes he's on. And he's very analytical. And every time this Pommy guy speaks, I listen.
Yes.
And I know you wax lyrical over him.
He teaches me about the game. Isn't that ironic? An Englishman teaching me about AFL. Should be the other way around, shouldn't it?
He's very, very confident on Marcus Bontempelli collecting some medals at the end of the year. Bit early for that, but he's
No, it's a fair point. I think too. He's been brilliant this season, and he has just slightly flown under the radar tightly. Not this week though. This week the media were really getting involved with him. So I'm Bont, Charlie, Jeremy Cameron, Nick Dacos, and Toby Green for whatever that means. So
no worries.
That is who is cooking, ladies and gentlemen. Here
you tell
on
us who's
Weekend
cooking.
Grill.
You tell us, guys.
Let us know.
But viewers out there, let us know if you have a different angle, if you agree or you disagree, if you think we've got it wrong. There's no wrong or right here. But, if there's someone that you think that we've missed, by all means.
Top 5 teams, top 5 players, let us know.
It's probably more the players that'll get the more engagement.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. I know.
I love it.
I know I copped a little bit of heat on the comments. I think
it was
a bit of tongue-in-cheek. Bit of tongue-in-cheek.
Maybe he just doesn't like the way you look or something. I don't know.
Not many do. No. Some do, though.
All right, let's move on.
Okay, let's get into... we're on viewer questions now. Okay, lovely. All right, let's get stuck straight into these. Now, Mitch OD6 on Twitter has sent in this question. Jason Horne-Francis, how does he stack up to other young stars in the league, Dacos, Ashcroft and co? I would say in the conversation, not as good as Dacos, but probably on par-ish with maybe Ashcroft, maybe just a little bit below, but I really like what he's very influential.
I have him up there with Nick Dacos. The only thing that I think separates them two, there is they are different styles of play.
Yes, correct. I
just think Nick Dacos's ball use is much better.
Yep.
But Jason Horne-Francis, I believe, will be future captain of Port Adelaide.
Okay.
And that's glowing. He is up there. He'd be in the top 3 players or maybe top 5 under 21.
Yep.
Under 21 or 22. Ashcroft deserves to be there.
Yep.
Mitch Owens from St Kilda. Dacos is obviously number 1. But yeah, look, Jason Horne-Francis is doing good things. I just think obviously the environment changed with him and He's kicking goals at Port Alberton, wherever Alberton Oval.
Yeah,
Port Adelaide.
Adelaide Oval, yeah, Alberton Oval.
And for what it's worth, I can see him being future captain of that club.
I completely agree with that, and I can see before he hits the age of 23, 24, I reckon he'll have an All-Australian jacket, and I reckon he
could be this year, you know.
Maybe.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves, maybe.
There's still a long way to go. We can make a run for it, and I also think that eventually he will be one of those runners in the Brownlow that we talk about. You know, he's a $2.50
a perennial vote
Brownlow.
getter.
Yes, correct. I think he definitely will be. So
thanks for the question, Mitch.
Thank you, Mitch. Lovely. Jake Collier 24 at Jake Collier 24. Simple question: daytime, twilight, or night grand final? I'm a traditionalist. I say date.
Well, a simple question, Jake, believe it or not, is a good question, and it's actually, ironically, not as simple as what you might think. There needs to be a lot of consideration behind this, predominantly for the monetization of it all.
Correct.
Ultimately, every decision will become a financial one.
Bottom line.
And I'm a big fan. I'm not a big fan of a night grand final. Mm-hmm. I don't want a night grand final. However, I do think a twilight grand final would be good.
Yeah, okay.
Especially getting into like September, spring. Daylight's not dark at 5:30. Maybe 6 o'clock starts getting a bit dark. But, you know, just from the entertainment point of view, you know, you can go out for dinner after it. I mean, it already happens. People party all night long, all weekend long, all month long. If you're a winner, yeah, absolutely. If you're a winner. But look, to answer your question, I would love to see them, if it's feasible, and if it's financially beneficial for the whole comp. Mm-hmm. I know fans don't want to hear that, but as I said, these decisions are made primarily on them being financial beneficially for the AFL. Mm-hmm. But I'd love to see a twilight grand final.
Yep,
I would. Wouldn't shock me if they do it.
Yeah, wouldn't shock me either. I'm daytime. Mm-hmm. I love the tradition behind that.
Fair enough.
Okay, now this is a very intriguing question from Parnham Cam at Parnham Cam. The question is: can you get AD's thoughts on his cameo on the front bar last week? Apparently you made an appearance on the front bar. Let's have a look.
I don't think it was a popular move with the fan base.
Many Carlton members can't bear the thought of him playing elsewhere.
Hey, what am I going to do with this? We're saying here, have our champion. Chasing down, running down in the forward line, wins us games. That's going to win us a premiership.
Well said.
What's going on there? Even Benny, our producer in the background's having a laugh. He's gonna. Now, can't confirm that was only last week. No. That was after the Brisbane game.
Just to set the record straight, I did not want it on the show. If it wasn't for our producer and my co-host here, Paul, suggesting it, that was a long, long time ago. Do I regret any of it? Okay. Not really. I mean, it is funny. I did have my mother text me and say someone said they saw you, you're famous. You should say the response over. I just said, I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Played it very diplomatically.
Played it very, very different. But no, look, we love the Fev, and as you can see, even Paul himself, our loyalty for Carlton has no limits, and that was a very, very passionate moment, and you know.
I must admit, that's a very, very funny. It's a very, very
that's so bad.
Very funny bit of footy. That's going to come up on wedding days. That's going to come up on anniversaries. That's going to come up on more podcasts. That's
I would love to know how some of these people even recognise it was me. My lord.
Well, you haven't aged much. There you go. It's a good thing.
Oh, bullshit.
They recognise
I haven't aged much. I feel like I'm 50.
Okay, so that's from Parnham Cab. I think is that a wrap for the audience questions?
Thanks for sending them in.
Thank you very much.
There was a quick mention to Mike Mazowski, who sent in some questions on the Twitter feed, but I think we answered them on the booing.
Okay, so throughout the show,
throughout the show. But thank you for sending them in, Mike. Feel free to keep sending them in. We love them.
I need to compose myself.
Where the hell's the joke?
The whole thing.
Yeah. Okay. All right, let's move on to the round 9 preview.
Okay, now we have an intriguing doubleheader. Now, I think this is the first time on Friday night we've had games overlap. This is ridiculous.
Actually, I do know what they're doing. Yeah, sorry, go on.
Richmond and Geelong at the MCG, which will be followed an hour and 20 minutes later by West Coast and Gold Coast at Optus Stadium, Blockbuster. Sydney and Fremantle at the SCG Saturday afternoon. North Melbourne and Port, the Jason Horne-Francis Cup. Hawthorn and Melbourne, Brisbane and Essendon, Carlton and the Western Bulldogs, Crows and Saints, and then it's the Maggies and the GWS Giants. Let's get stuck into our tips, AD. Tigs and Cats.
Geelong, not going to be a walk in the park.
Agree.
I think Dion Presti's 200th game, so well done, Dion Presti.
Yep, the human meatball.
I've had a massive opinion of that player. Hopefully they get up for him. Look, I expect Geelong to be winning. I reckon Richmond might give them a run. Richmond have troubled, just to give you an idea, Richmond have troubled Melbourne. Richmond troubled, or they stuck with Collingwood for 3 quarters. These might be Richmond conditions on Friday night at the MCG.
I'll be back to the G.
I think I'm very certain Geelong will win.
Yep.
Not going to be a walk in the park. Yourself?
Completely agree with you on that. West Coast and Gold Coast. Geez, Gold Coast, my God, $1.30 at Optus Stadium.
I actually haven't even thought about this game.
Yeah, I don't think many have either.
I suspect Gold Coast will win.
I suspect Gold Coast will win as well. Sydney and Fremantle at the SCG. Sydney will bounce back for mine.
Do or die for both teams.
It is.
I mean, you can basically count your season over. Sydney should be winning this game.
Agree. North Melbourne and Port Adelaide. North Melbourne will give us a better run for. I think they'll stick around for a little while, but Port will be far too good. Simple as
Agreed.
that, really. Simple
Say
as
no
that.
more.
And I think the same will happen in this game between Hawthorn and Melbourne. I think Melbourne will get the job done. Hawthorn, they know where they're at. They were disappointing last week, but maybe back to the G home game they can potentially improve. But this is a perfect game for Melbourne.
They get a couple ins, Hawthorn. Luke Bruce come back in, something. Melbourne's going to be contesting Jacob Van Rooyens, which I don't want to speak about too much, but you're going to be contesting or appealing his 2-week ban tonight. So I mean, either way, I don't think it makes a difference. Melbourne will win in the game.
I agree. Brisbane and Essendon. This game, I think, won't be as straightforward for Brisbane as I think.
Completely agree.
Some will say. I still think Brisbane will win, but Essendon have. They would be kicking themselves after last week, after letting that one slip against Port, albeit I know Port in general play, I think were far better. But I'm Brisbane, but it wouldn't surprise me if the Bombers stuck around for a little while.
Yeah, I think Essendon the last month have got a lot to hold their hat on and to be proud of. They have stuck around against some very good teams. They've challenged a few good teams, and look, they're going to come up against another test this week at the Gabba in the Lions. Lions will be winning it. Probably, Essendon will put up a fight. I mean, if I was an Essendon fan, I wouldn't be too discouraged about how their team is going. They're playing half decent footy when they've got the ball in their hand. Obviously, there's a few question marks on when they don't have the ball in their hand. I think you guys will give the Lions a run, but the Lions should be a bit too strong.
Agree. Crunch game at Marvel Stadium Saturday night. Carlton versus the Western Bulldogs.
Carlton will win.
Yeah.
They'll win.
Yep,
Carlton will be winning.
I'm trying to remove my bias cap.
No, I'm telling you, there is no. But I mentioned it to you. I mentioned it to you a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, you did.
I don't care what happens in the Brisbane game. We'll be beating the Bulldogs.
Yep.
Statistically and analytically, we match up well against them.
Yep.
Not we. Carlton match up well against them.
Yep.
In every majority of the facets of the game that I look for, I think Carlton are going to win.
Yep.
I do. And there's no bias to that.
And I think they are, and this is where I like to, when I look at markets, so Carlton open up the slight favourite, and the market has done a flip. So I think the Blues are really good value at anything over even money. I think is a fantastic bet for the Blues.
They might start flipping a coin, $1.90 each, depending on the selections. If Jamarra Ugle-Hagan gets up, Treloar's definitely out.
Yes.
What is it now? $1.80 Bulldogs, $2 Carlton. They'll probably start a flip of the coin, $1.90 each when the ball's bounced.
Big game Sunday afternoon, Adelaide Oval. Adelaide versus St Kilda. I'm bullish on the Crows.
Massive on the Crows.
Yep. Completely agree.
The Crows are. I'm not going to reveal. The Crows are a very good play.
Yep.
They will be bouncing back. They might just be a bit too slick in the way they move the ball for the Saints. Saints' defense is obviously rigid. Everyone knows that. The way they set up behind the ball structurally, transitionally, the way they move the ball in the boundary, everyone knows that. I just reckon Adelaide has a bit too much firepower.
Yep.
They're a good. Again, the same with this. And Adelaide's lost their last 2 games against Collingwood and Geelong. They've been playing some very good football.
They have.
They are a genuine top 8 team.
Should have beaten Collingwood.
I'm not disregarding Adelaide.
Should have beaten Collingwood.
Adelaide were winning.
Should have beaten Collingwood. Collingwood versus the GWS Giants.
Collingwood.
Collingwood for mine, but I think the Giants.
Toby Green, is he going to get up?
I think so.
I reckon he will.
If he does, I think the Giants at the spread might be a good play. But just wait for that. Just wait for that. Don't go too all in on that one. So just to wrap up, I'm Cats, Suns, Swans, Power, Demons, Lions, Blues, Crows, and Magpies.
Mate, it's the same as last week. We've gone exactly the same.
Have we really?
We have.
have.
I'm not going to mention it.
Isn't that funny?
I'm exactly the same as Paul.
I think that's more of a story itself, really.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, that's a wrap. Again, to the 100 subscribers on YouTube, Thank you very much. The road to 1,000, I think, is what we can vie for next. There's a long way to go.
Not to say we can't get there. We might get there one day.
To all the listeners, to all the viewers, thank you very much again. Leave your comments as well in the YouTube section. That's really starting to pick up.
Our show is nothing without you, so we do appreciate it.
That's correct. And Twitter as well. You can see all the links there too. AD, pleasure doing it with you
Likewise,
again.
Paul.
Pleasure doing it with the audience again. And hope your teams win on the weekend and hope you're entertained. Enjoy.
Have a good one.